Okay, so let's go ahead and get into this one. We're going to read this just like we would be on the test. So this would pop up on your test. You just want to approach it in a specific way. First, I'm going to read the scenario, and then we're going to go through each of these options here. All right, so you're a cybersecurity engineer working for a security consulting firm that specializes in penetration testing and cyber incident response. Currently, you're assisting the firm's cyber incident response team, or the CERT team, which is actively working for 3 different clients to improve their incident response procedures. Your manager asks you to assess 3 attacks in progress, okay, provide an appropriate response, and identify specific elements to improve each organization's incident response planning. A summary of each attack is as follows. So we're being asked to respond to 3 different responses. This is a pretty major firm then, and we're pretty busy. Okay. Oh, hey, Daniel. Thanks so much. I'm glad you passed your test. I'm really happy. And guys, we'll help you with these questions. I know these questions are tough to think about, so we're going to get to them here. So let's look at this first incident. Federal government agency, U.S. CERT or CISA. CISA alerts the agency to possible data exfiltration detected on its networks. The government agency activates the CERT, which is our organization. Okay, so we're a CERT for a government organization. That's pretty... I don't think that really happens. Usually the government agencies have their own certs, but that's okay. We're working with the CompTIA scenario. HackerOne is dangerously close to the most sensitive personnel databases. So we're dealing with PII. The CERT manages to isolate and remediate HackerOne. Okay, so the CERT already managed to isolate HackerOne. During the secondary review of agency systems, the CERT discovers Hacker2 has already established a foothold and engaged in C2 command and control data exfiltration for weeks. So another hacker had already established a foothold. Okay. And then we have incident 2. And let's pause this scenario. Normally I like to read the whole scenario, but let's take a look at the question itself. So we have 3 scenarios here. So let's do these one at a time. So the first one's the government agency. Identify which cyber kill train attack stage is occurring. Okay, so this is the cyber kill chain. So this is the Lockheed Martin cyber kill chain. That's what they're trying to use here. We got a bunch of different methodologies that we can refer back to, but that's the one that we're looking at here. So we're going to have to pick that stage. Identify an incident response process mitigation step. Okay. That could be anything. And identify an incident response future prevention step. And identify which exercises will strengthen incident response. Let's see. Okay. All right, so how's it going, Brandon? Welcome. Let's see. The first one is going to be one of the kill chain stages. So which of these stages would be the most accurate? I mean, they've already done everything, right? Let's take a look at this. Possible data exfiltration. All right, HackerOne is dangerously close to most sensitive personnel databases. We managed to isolate them. During the second review, we've established that Hacker2 has already established a foothold and exfiltrated data. So if they've already exfiltrated data, then they've reached the end of that kill chain. So that should be actions on objective. That's the last stage. You start with reconnaissance and you end up with actions on objective. Now, is it action on objectives or all stages? I'm going to go with action on objectives because we're identifying the stage that is occurring. So all stages aren't occurring at once. You go through them in order. Okay. Identify incident response mitigation step. Okay, containment, eradication, or identification. Well, it says we've already contained them, right? In this part here, manages to isolate and remediate HackerOne. The CERT manages to isolate, so we've done that. Identify an incident response process mitigation step. I mean, all of these are steps. I'm going to assume this wants us to identify the next step. So if we've already contained them, for the first step is definitely going to be to contain the incident. So if you have an incident going on, you need to contain that right away so it doesn't affect more systems. Okay, so Containment would be first, but we've already done that, so eradication would probably be next. We want to remove that presence from our network. Okay, identify incident response process, future prevention steps. Lessons learned, preparation, or recovery. I mean, you would do each of these. You would do all of these. I'll come back to that one. Identify which exercise will strengthen incident response. Simulations, tabletop, walkthrough, hybrid exercises. I mean, all of these would do this. Is this the same for each of these? It is. Okay, unless I see something different, I'm going to pick all exercises here for all of these, because all of these exercises would strengthen incident response. Now, the question is, which one are we going to... Is it asking something that it doesn't really, explicitly say? A lot of times these questions ask you something without explicitly asking it. So are we trying to pick the one that's the most effective, or are we just picking any of these that would work? Because all of these would benefit us. A great question. Difference between remediation and eradication. So remediation would be, I'd say, a step after eradication. It would be solving the vulnerabilities that the hacker exploited. Okay, so if you have a vulnerability in your firewall, or you're running an outdated piece of software, and an attacker took advantage of that to gain access to your network or inject some code. Remediation would be solving that vulnerability, updating that software, closing or creating a new firewall rule, things like that. Eradication is removing an active presence on your network. So the attacker has established a backdoor, for instance. They've established a means of communicating to some sort of command and control software. Eradication would be removing that backdoor or that malicious code that's on your network. So eradication is a more immediate step. Does that help? Great question. Okay, we got to answer this one. Identify incident response process, future prevention step. Well, preparation wouldn't be a future step, though we could prepare for future attacks. I mean, we would recover from this. I'm gonna try for lessons learned, because we would learn from this incident. This one's confusing me. We might have to come back to this. Okay, let's look at the next one here. Incident 2, major bank. When examining web application firewalls, or WAFs, the CERT discovers HackerOne attacking a misconfigured bank firewall. Okay? HackerOne is relaying commands to back-end cloud servers or testing them to extract data about bank server architecture and topology. The hacker's action suggests advanced knowledge of the cloud service provider's infrastructure. HackerOne has not executed exfiltration or injected malicious code, has succeeded in taking advantage of a misconfiguration of the WAF to gain unauthorized access. Okay, so this is going to help us with the kill chain step. So let's start there. So the kill chain step, we're not at reconnaissance, though they are doing reconnaissance steps. They've moved beyond that. So if they've exploitation seems to be what I'm leaning towards, because what they've done here is it kind of uses that terminology, and they have to give us some sort of terminology, because these are very subjective steps. These aren't like hard coded, it's not like the ATT and CK methodology where you have everything's very detailed as to what step is what. I mean, that one has like 40 different sub steps. This one's very vague. So if they haven't done any injection or exfiltration. Exfiltration would be actions on the objective. Injection would be installation. But if they've taken advantage of a misconfiguration, means that they've done some sort of exploitation. So I'm going to say exploitation. Doesn't the first scenario say we remediated the attack already? It's a good question. Yeah, isolate and remediate. Yeah, okay, good point. So if it says that we've remediated, so I guess that would help us solve this one. If we've done remediation, well, it has to be eradication because it's not going to be identification. We've already established, that there's been hackers on the network. It's not containment because we've already contained it, so it has to be eradication. We have to go through, and I think the key that makes it eradication is that we've discovered on that second review that there was a hacker 2. So we've remediated hacker 1, but we haven't remediated or eradicated hacker 2 yet. So good catch though. And I think this would lean it more towards lessons learned. So I think I'm feeling a little better about lessons learned. Good comment. And it is confusing with remediation and eradication, especially in this context. Hey, thanks for posting that, Brand. I appreciate that. All right, let's see. This, for the second one, the remediation step, are these the same? Containment, eradication, identification. Yes. Okay. So in this one, we would want to contain, right? They haven't executed anything. They haven't done anything yet, so we want to contain them, I believe. So I think that would be containment. Now this one, I would lean towards, I don't know. Question about the cyber kill chain. There are 2 definitions of cyber kill chain. One has 7 stages, another has 8. Is there a current, more commonly used chain? If so, which one? Great question. There's a bunch of them floating out there. Let me pull up the one that we're talking about. Okay, so we're talking about the Lockheed Martin cyber kill chain. This is it right here. And I know these steps, so don't tell you I'm cheating on this test. I just want to show you guys what this is. These are the steps here. And it's basically this graphic. This graphic is what you want to know for the test. It's reconnaissance, weaponization, delivery, exploitation, installation, command and control, and access objective. And the reason we know that it's this one specifically is because those steps are listed in the question here. And this is the one you want to study for the Security Plus exam. You want to know these. Definitely want to know these. Great question, though. And here, let me post this link in the chat here so you guys can study that. Okay. Okay. I think with this one, they haven't done anything yet. They testing the servers. They haven't executed. They haven't exfiltrated the data or injected any code. So I think what would be best here would be to prepare for future attacks based on how we've handled this first attack. Because we don't have any lessons learned. There wasn't an actual attack to learn from. And there wasn't a disaster or an incident to recover from. So I'd say preparation would make the most sense. But this whole section is a little confusing. I still think all exercises would apply here. I don't see anything that would tell us that we only want to do a specific exercise. Okay, let's go to the third one. After an audit of the VPN infrastructure, the CERT discovers that HackerOne and other accomplices have already stolen and used existing VPN credentials. The CERT detects a lack of network segmentation. HackerOne and others, now labeled as Hacker Group 1, have created multiple footholds and multiple administrator accounts. The CERT focuses on Hacker 4, observing that Hacker 4 is delivering weaponized code into point of sale data servers to expand persistence. Point of sale is anything like a credit card swipe machine. That's a point of sale device. Point of sale data servers to expand persistence. Okay. So this is a major hack here. They've already stolen credentials. They've created multiple footholds and multiple accounts. So they've already established some sort of presence. They've already weaponized. They've already installed code. Basically, let's see. Which stage would be most relevant here? They've stolen and used credentials. Have they stolen data? They've created accounts. The cert focuses on hacker 4, observing the hackers delivering weaponized code. Well, if they're delivering weaponized code, I mean, it's either, I would think, installation. We've passed reconnaissance. So what stage would we be on now? I would think installation. We've already established weaponization. I'm going to select installation. I think that makes the most sense here. What is our mitigation step? This should be containment again, because this is actively happening. And then what future step? I'd say recovery. Already stolen VPN credentials. Created multiple footholds. Observing the hackers delivering weaponized code. Okay. Nothing here really says that we have to identify an incident response process future prevention step. I mean, we would do all of these. We would do lessons learned for any of these. So we would do preparation for future attacks. We would do recovery, except possibly not for this one. I'd say recovery. I'm not sure. This one's confusing to me, the way they asked this. And this I still think is all exercise. I think this is one of those trick ones where they just try and give you, or you answer the same thing every time. Anybody have any other thoughts on what we've selected here? What does recovery mean in terms of prevention step? That's a great question, and that it's pretty vague right here. I'm not entirely sure what they're trying to mean here with recovery, preparation, lessons learned. I mean, lessons learned is a prevention step. I suppose if we're looking at prevention step, recovery isn't really a prevention step. That's a great point. That's a good way to think about it. So if it's not if recovery would not be a prevention step, then it's either going to be lessons learned or preparation. So yeah, because that's a good point. Let's try preparation. If it's recovery, this one is just, you would prepare by having lessons learned on the previous exploit. And you would prepare for future exploits. These could be anything. I'm not too clear on these. But I don't think recovery would be considered a prevention step. So this might be a red herring here. So it'd either be lessons learned or preparation. I kind of want to say lessons learned for all of these. Is there anything in here that gives us a keyword we can clue in on? Because one of the main points with these is to pick a keyword. All right. Multiple footholds, multiple administrator accounts, hackers delivering weaponized code. Okay, we're conducting an audit here. but we have active exploits happening now. I'm not sure. I think I'm going to go ahead and I'm overthinking this at this point. Okay, well, we got it. Let's see what they have to say here. All right, let's see what's going on. What worked out. This is a good point on this one. Who said that, Mo? That was a good point, because I don't think recovery was going to be, well, it wasn't right for any of these. Okay, so let's look at Incident 1, federal government agency. The kill chain is modeled after the 2015 OPM attack against the U.S. government. I mean, these could apply to, this is vague enough to apply to anything, really. The scenario states data exfiltrations occurred. The kill chain is executed in full, which is actions on objective. That one's pretty straightforward. The instant response is eradication, which mitigates command and control and action on objective stages of the cyber kill chain and is the best choice. Now, this isn't, the cyber kill chain doesn't have incident response steps associated with it here. Okay? So, this is the entire cyber kill chain. There's no any addendums to this. This is what you need to know. So, that the way they explain that doesn't make much sense. I mean, I think it makes sense that we would pick eradication because we've already contained the hackers here. Serious damage has already occurred, so eradication is the best possible strategy to remediate the situation. Now, I don't like how they're using this terminology here. That's a little confusing. Okay, because you want to separate. Eradication is not the same as remediation, as we just explained on this question. Okay, due to the extent of the data damage, lessons learned is the best choice for future prevention. Since there was a complete kill chain, lessons learned from the incident will help prevent future attacks. That doesn't explain anything. I don't understand this third section here. All exercises are essential to incident preparation. Okay. Does it say that for every one of these? All exercises are essential. Yeah, so it was one of those, hey, select the same thing multiple times and then question yourself and get real stressed out on the test, sitting there wondering, do I really need to answer the same thing like 3-4 times in a row? And the answer on a CompTIA exam is usually yes. So don't be afraid to do that. All right, Incident 2, major bank. Note, kill chain is modeled after 2019 Capital One data breach. That was just one person in Seattle using Amazon Web Services to exploit a really poorly configured web application that Capital One had. The scenario states that the attacker has advanced knowledge of the cloud service provider's architecture and has succeeded in exploiting a misconfiguration in a WAF. This best correlates with the exploitation stage of the cyber kill chain. Okay, that makes sense. The hacker has accelerated past the first 3 stages of cyber kill chain without having to engage in malware delivery or other actions expected in an attack. Well, that's not true, because they did reconnaissance. This last sentence, if they took that out, it would be a much better explanation. The incident response containment step mitigates the exploitation and installation stages of the cyber kill chain. The attacker has delivered server-side attacks and obtained unauthorized access to information. Okay, containment will focus on eliminating the hacker's persistence. I mean, we would contain them because we know, the attacker is ready to do the attack. That was the key there. Let's see. That's a good point, Sadie, that 3.3 would not be lessons learned because the attack's ongoing. That's a good point. So I guess that's one thing that could differentiate these two. This one, the attack has happened, and these two, the attack is ongoing. So we would use preparation. But still, that might be a good keyword to clue in on there, or the key piece of information. The bank organization would benefit from hardening defenses on cloud assets. I mean, any of these organizations would benefit from hardening. So I don't know why that's really the case. All right, Incident 3, major retailer. Kill chain modeled after 2013 Target Corporation. In that attack, Target that was like a supply chain attack. It's a classic example of a supply chain attack. The HVAC vendor for Target, the ones that manage the heating, the ventilation, the air conditioning systems, they had a direct line into Target's network. Target actually had really good cybersecurity controls, but the HVAC vendor didn't. So what the attackers did, they exploited that HVAC vendor, and then they were able to use that back door into Target's network to then start exploiting point of sale devices and creating their own administrator accounts and all sorts of things. So that one's usually used as I like to use it as a supply chain attack example. Okay. Weaponized code correlates to the installation stage. That makes sense. Containment would focus on eliminating this hacker's persistence. Okay. That's true. If the attacker is active on the network, we'd want to contain them. And the retail organization benefit from several techniques designed to layer in hard defenses. The incident response preparation stage is the best choice to help the organization mitigate future attacks. Yeah, I'm still not buying the third section here. Lessons learned would also help. And you want to do lessons learned after every incident. All exercises are essential. I'm not a big fan of this question. We managed to get it, but I don't like this one. But we did it. You know, we solved it out together, and I think this was helpful here. Yeah. And if you find yourself working for a company where you have to respond to 3 major incidents at once, you better be being paid several $100,000 a year, or you need to find yourself some new work, because that's insane.